stand by, see you. Have a great meeting, everyone.
Thanks, Jason.
Well, good evening and welcome to Fort Mitchell City Council. I'm Mayor Jude Heeman. Today is February the 8th and 2021, and this is our regular city council meeting. And just for roll call, I'm just going to do a microphone check and make sure everybody's okay. Mr. Steckel?
Here.
All right, Mr. Dethridge?
Check.
All right, Mr. Polgears?
Present.
Ms. Roding?
I'm sorry.
Ms. Roding, can you hear me? And Ms. Berger?
I'm here.
All right, so we have quorum with everybody. We are missing two members, Ms. Burns and Ms. Knockhazel. So we'll let the records reflect that. So members, you received the agenda for tonight. Would there be a motion to approve such agenda?
Motion to approve.
Mr. Dethridge?
Second.
Second, Ms. Berger, all in favor?
Aye.
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 Anyone opposed? All right, council, we have two sets of minutes. Our first set is our January 4th, 2021. And I want to mention that you had a late resending of that. There was members that were present. It said Ms. Berger, and then members that were absent, it said Ms. Berger. And so that would be Mrs. Burns would be the correction of that, and that was sent. So I would like a motion if there's anything else, or a motion as submitted with a correction.
Motion to approve.
Mr. Polgears,
I second.
Second it.
Ms. Roding, all in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? All right. And then our second set of minutes is our January 25th, 2021. We had most of it was in an executive session. So we also discussed the appointing for the EMS intern program. Any corrections of the minutes?
Motion to approve.
Mr. Dethridge?
Second it.
Second, Mr. Steckel, all in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? All right, motion carries. Citizens and guests, Andrew will, if there's anybody listening, we'll come back after we have an audit presentation, and we'll take any questions from anyone that's on YouTube or Facebook Live. So we'll do that. And from our audit, we have Bramall and Ackley, and there was two young ladies, Stephanie and Kristen. I guess you are here to present our audit. Is that correct?
Yes, we are. Thank you for having us. I'm a partner here at Bramall and Ackley, and Kristen Berger is on with me this evening. She is our CPA that did the majority of the audit work for the city of Fort Mitchell this year. So she's here, both of us. If we have any questions, we'd be happy to answer those this evening, or after tonight, if something comes up, you can always reach out to us as well. This is the second year that we completed the audit for the city of Fort Mitchell. We appreciate the assistance that Amy provided to us. Obviously, this year's audit was a bit different than last year when we were able to come out to the city building and do our field work actually in person, but Amy graciously provided us with everything that we needed, and we completed the audit remotely. She responded timely, and therefore we are presenting the audit report this evening. Also, thanks to each of you who responded to our inquiry letter and sent that back to us. I'm going to share my screen. So you see the audit report. I believe everyone should have received a copy of this document. If you had a chance to look through it, I'm just going to hit on the highlights this evening. This page that you see here is the independent auditor's report. The financial statements are the financial statements of the city and the management of the city. Our responsibility is to complete an audit to issue an opinion on whether these financial statements are fairly reported in accordance with US GAAP. So at the top of The page here is our opinion. It's an unmodified or clean opinion on the financial statements for the year ended June 30, 2020. And it states that in all material respects, the financial statements are fairly presented in accordance with generally accepted accounting principles in the United States. You'll note here, there is a paragraph below here. It's an emphasis of matter paragraph. There was one adjustment related to construction in progress from the prior year, and that has been adjusted in this year's financial statements. Other matters, there's required supplementary information included in the audit report. We don't express an opinion on that. That's the standard presentation for all audits, that the management's discussion and analysis, the budgetary comparison information, and schedules for pension and post-employment benefits are presented, but the auditors do not express an opinion on that information. There's also budgetary comparison schedules for the non-major governmental funds. We reviewed those, and we do express an opinion that they are fairly stated in all material respects to the financial statements. And then lastly, in our auditor's report, you have this paragraph referring to the second report we issue in all governmental audits. That's a report on internal control and compliance. You'll find that at the very back of the audit report, but I'll just mention here that there were no deficiencies in internal control that we noted or needed to express. And additionally, there were no issues of non-compliance in our testing. After our report, you have management's discussion and analysis. This is a narrative overview of the financial statements. It highlights some of the significant balances. This is really the only place in your audit report that you will see comparative to the prior year. So you can see here, the financial highlights shows 2019 figures as well as 2020 figures. Overall, the fund balance had an increase of $1,102,000 during this past fiscal year. This section is the government-wide statement of net position. This is the full accrual accounting presentation for the city. It shows all of the assets, including the capital fixed assets, net of depreciation, all of the long-term liabilities, including the net pension liability required to be reported in accordance with government accounting standards. So here you'll see from 2019, the net position was just over 15 million, and it did have a slight decrease to 14 million at the end of 2020. The next page shows your governmental fund revenue and the increase or decrease in those revenue items this year compared to last year. And then there's a similar schedule on expenditures. We move into the statements themselves. Again, your total assets were 26.6 million. There were deferred outflows related to the pension and the OPEB liability of 3.4 million. The total liabilities were 14,560,000. Almost 13.4 million of that is related to the unfunded pension liability and the OPEB liability. The deferred inflows of resources was just over $1 million, and your net position at the end of last year was 14,363,000. The statement of activities shows your total governmental activity expenditures of just under $10 million. That netted against your program revenues, so your charges for services, the grants that you've received, contributions, leaves a net expenditures of 7.5 million. Your total general revenues were 6.8, so there was a decrease of the net position of 720,000 during the fiscal year. The next balance sheet is your balance sheet just of your governmental funds. This does not include your long-term assets or your long-term liabilities. So your total assets on the fund basis were 14.6 million. And you had a very strong fund balance of 9.5 million. The statement then reconciles that fund balance of 9.5 to the net position that was on the government-wide statement. And all of those relate to depreciation, capital assets, and your pension liabilities. Your governmental fund statement of revenues and expenditures shows annual revenues of $9,335,000. The expenditures were $8.2 million. So you had a positive increase in fund balance of $1,102,000 for the year. This is mainly how the city budgets annually to show the revenues and expenditures received each year. And that next page reconciles that $1,102,000 increase in their fund balance to what we previously showed, a decrease in net position of $720,000. The statements are followed by notes to the financial statements. Notes A through E related to accounting policies and procedures, concentrations. Those are similar to prior years. There was a new note added on the use of restricted resources to note B. And then on notes F and G on pages 30 through 38, these are the required disclosures related to the pension plan for the city, as well as the post-employment health insurance benefit that retirees receive. Notes H through P, those are similar to last year related to debt, the contract with the other cities related to fire and the life squad services. We have added a new note on the CARES Act funding the city received and disclosed that has been recognized in these financial statements as intergovernmental revenue in the amount of $592,000. The remaining pages are the required supplementary information and the budgetary schedules for the funds. They show your actual and your amended budgets compared to actual revenue and expenditures and the increase or the decrease in those. And then lastly, our report at the end is that report on internal control and compliance. We describe here what we do as far as internal control and our audit, as well as what a deficiency is. And again, this is the highest level we can issue on the internal control reporting, but that there were no instances of, there was no material weaknesses discovered in our audit. And then additionally, there were no instances of non-compliance with the audit. Does anybody have any questions for us?
Stephanie, we have a new council member this year. We kind of talk about it each year. I think back in 2014, the state required us, the city of Fort Mitchell never showed any long-term debt. And I believe it was in 14 where we had to show the unfunded CRS liability on actual audit reports. And I think I kind of say it every year. I think it's important that council, in my opinion, keep an eye on that. That it's now that they're requiring us to show that, even though we don't have to pay it in a sense, we do.
Right. Yeah, that's required for all governmental entities that are participating in a pension plan. That has to be disclosed. And in your case this year, that balance increased $1.6 million over the last fiscal year.
Thank you. Are there any questions?
No, I just, Mayor, I'd like to take a minute as Chair of the Finance Committee to thank and offer compliments to Amy on for all the efforts that she puts in over the year. Not just on the audit, but everything else to keep the city fiscally sound and responsible. She does a wonderful job. And also thanks to the folks at Bramwell and Ackley for doing the audit this year.
Thank you.
Agreed. Anyone else? Great, thanks for your report. We do appreciate it.
You're
Thank
welcome. Thank you.
doing this in a strange way anyway, but I do appreciate your time.
You're welcome. Thank you.
No problem. Thanks, Kristen.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks.
Thank you, Amy.
All right, moving on then from the audit. Andrew, is there anybody, citizens and guests on?
Nothing on YouTube. I don't know, Joe, are you tracking Facebook? Is there anything?
Yeah, nothing on Facebook.
Okay. All right, we're going to move on. So Claire, you and I are up under the city attorney's report. And the first one is a municipal order appointing a city administrator officer. And I'm really excited. Edwin is here on the Zoom call with us. Council, you all have had an opportunity to meet with him and interview and ask him questions. And I think for me, people said, what's so special about him? And I just really feel excited to bring this name for you to vote. I do believe that he brings something very unique to the city. He has a very diverse background in state and local government, and I definitely think he brings something that'll really help Fort Mitchell move to for the next 10 years. So I'm excited to present that municipal order appointing Edwin King as our city administration officer. So Claire.
Yes, we have municipal order number 2021-09, and that's a municipal order of the city of Fort Mitchell, Kentucky, approving the appointment of a CAO.
I'll make the motion to approve.
I'll second.
Second, Mr. Polgears. All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion carries. Edwin?
Congratulations.
Congratulations. Edwin.
sir.
Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
Look forward to hearing from me quite a bit. All right, buddy.
Great.
He's not lying.
Edwin, since this is the first time people have been able to see your face, can you just, for the folks that will watch this, tell everybody a little bit about yourself? And
Yeah, that's great. Can you hear me okay?
yeah.
All right, perfect. My wife and I, my wife grew up in Florence, Kentucky. We've lived there for several years. We moved took a job in Nashville last year, and I'm very excited to be back in Northern Kentucky. I'm humbled by the opportunity that you all placed in me, and Fort Mitchell is such a vibrant community, and it's clear that you all work well together, and I really wanted to be a part of that team, and I'm humbled by that, and also proud, as Fort Mitchell residents are proud of their community. I'm proud to be a part of the community now. So I thank you, and I look forward to working with you all.
Great. Edwin, thank you. Can't wait for you to get back up here to your new home. So Edwin will be starting the first week in March, correct?
That's correct. Yep.
Okay, good deal. Well, thank you and welcome.
Thank you.
I'll save my other comments about Andrew until my mayor's report. So Claire, do you want to move on to the next municipal order?
Sure. So we have municipal order 2021-10, and that is a municipal order of the city of Fort Mitchell, Kentucky, approving the appointment of a member to the Code Enforcement Board.
So Derek Harper has moved out of the city, and the name that I'm bringing forward is John Powell. And John is not a new name. He was one of the original, I think, on the code enforcement board, Greg, with Frank Polgears, I believe. And I think John really always represented the city, and he's willing to step back up and do this again. So I do ask your consideration of appointing John Powell back to the code enforcement board.
Motion to approve.
Mr. Dethridge,
Second.
second. Ms. Berger, all in favor?
Aye.
All right. Anyone opposed? Motion carries. Claire, we have some resolutions with the fire department. I think I want to ask you kind of to tag with Adam with this.
Sure. So we have resolution number 2021-01, and that is a resolution of the city of Fort Mitchell, Kentucky, authorizing the mayor to apply for funds for the assistance to firefighters grant programs for the purchase of self-contained breathing apparatus for the Fort Mitchell Fire Department, and further authorizing the expenditure of required local contribution if awarded.
So background on that is our self-contained breathing apparatus are right about, they have a 15-year life expectancy. They're sitting about year number 17. So it is a little early to replace them. However, with the grant, we do qualify by the grant rules. We are having some issues with those. We've got several that are going out of service for repairs. They're beyond the warranty period. So this is an effort to try to get those replaced before we run into a long-term problem and are forced to do an emergency purchase.
Questions for Adam regarding that? A motion to approve resolution 2021-01.
Motion to approve.
Mr. Polgears, second.
I second.
Roding, all in favor?
Aye.
Anyone oppose? All right, motion carries. Claire?
So we have resolution number 2021-02, and that is a resolution of the city of Fort Mitchell, Kentucky, authorizing the mayor to apply for funds for FEMA staffing for adequate fire and emergency response grant for the Fort Mitchell Fire Department, and further authorizing the expenditure of required local contribution if awarded.
So,
This is, sorry.
no, so yeah, let's just talk about the local share. If we get this, what does that mean?
So the local share for this one, this is another SAFER grant. Last year we applied for 2 SAFER grants. We received the one for $664,000 for volunteer recruitment and the intern program for exchange for college service. This is the second SAFER grant we applied for last year that we did not receive. This has a 0 cost share. This is basically the federal government will pay for 4 firefighter EMS cross-trained personnel for 3 years with 0 contribution from the city. It covers everything with the exception of unscheduled overtime.
Motion to approve.
Mr. Dethridge,
I'll second it.
second. Mr. Steckel, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, motion carries. Chief Sherberg, I don't know if you're taking notes about this, but I sure haven't seen any grants for the police department in a long time.
We had a small COVID grant this year, but yes, everyone loves firefighters and they just want to shower them with.
Edwin, take notes here. All right, we got one more, Claire.
Okay, we have resolution 2021-03, and that is urging the Kentucky General Assembly to address infrastructure needs by increasing transportation funding and modernize Kentucky road funding formula.
So council, I get, this is probably the biggest complaint that I get is how bad our roads are in the city of Fort Mitchell. And when I ask people where, they point out to Dixie Highway. And obviously Dixie Highway is just one example that, you know, the state has no money for funding, and we've got to come up with it. And I think so many people are afraid, you know, raising taxes or anything else. But if the car tax revenues are not sufficient, we're going to have to come up with something. And, you know, we're going to have to push. And that's why I think, Andrew, this one came from the KLC. Is that correct?
It did. I believe we have passed similar resolutions in the last few years.
of doing. So we're asking to at least pass this. So it really puts the eye on Frankfurt to do something.
Motion to approve.
Ms. Berger,
Second.
second, Ms. Roding, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Anyone oppose? All right, motion carries. All right, I think that's your report. Claire, thank you very much. Under the mayor's report, I have a couple things, and I'd be remiss if I didn't start with Chief Sherberg. You know, when Charmalee left us and gave us notice back in March and left us in April, one of the things is just the amount that we had for our department heads. There was no question whether or not we could, you know, maintain and run the city because our department heads are so good. But for Andrew to step up and do both roles for not just 1 month, but almost the entire year, you know, really hats off to Andrew, and just wanted to personally say thank you to you. And I think when you're ready to retire as a police officer, there'll be a lot of people coming, banging on your door because you did an exceptional job and really took this job serious. And I think you were even nice to the police department or fire department on occasions too. But you really did a great job, and I just personally wanted to thank you for that.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
So I know Edwin, I think even though Andrew did all the work, I think you are a nice surprise because he's ready to just push it off all on his plate and concentrate on police work. So for sure. Under the other things, I wanted to talk about is the surplus property is my next thing. I think, Andrew, you sent, it was missed in the council pack, correct?
Yeah, I did miss that when I put the council packet together. So I sent it in an email just about a half hour before the meeting.
So if anybody hasn't had a chance to look and wishes to push that off, but it is a list that Adam, you put together with Chief Sherberg. I think Public Works has got some things in there, but we want a surplus, and I'm asking your a motion to allow me to sign the executive order for surplus property.
Motion to approve.
Mr. Dethridge,
Second.
second, Ms. Berger. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Anyone oppose or have concerns? All right, motion carries. Between, I don't know, Amy or Andrew about the CARES Act. I know for the next meeting, we just kind of wanted to give council a heads up that in order to get the residential utility grant, we're going to have an actual public hearing prior to an open and closed public hearing. We can get up to close to $200,000, I believe, and the ad district is going to manage those monies and such. So I don't know if somebody can explain a little bit better than me, but this is all kind of new.
I'll start us out, and I'm sure Amy can jump in more detail. The ad district is sort of wrangling this for the whole area. It's a utility grant for residential customers based on need, and it goes back a little bit too. So customers who would otherwise have disconnect notices will be able to apply. The Northern Kentucky, the CAC will be handling the actual distribution of the funds. So really, as a city, we're kind of a pass through on this, but we will need at the next meeting to do a resolution as well as a public hearing. But the ad district is compiling the numbers on delinquencies for the various utility providers for us to assist in the application when we're ready to fill that out. Amy, is there anything else that?
Yeah, so this is, it's under the CARES Act, but it's a CDBG grant. People can apply for up to 6 months at $250 a month. if they're covered under another utility program where their utilities are paid for, then they won't be able to get that, but they might be, say they get their electric paid for, but not their water or their sanitation. So it's all, it's all utilities. The NKCAC, it's Northern Kentucky Community Action. I don't know what the last C is, but it's funded by federal government, all the counties in the surrounding areas, and then some of the larger corporations like Duke. So what's going to happen is we apply for the $200,000. The Northern Kentucky Ad District will help, all of us apply for this. They're going to, kind of administer the grant, and they will be taking in a 5, maybe they weren't sure on the exact percentage, but a 5% administrative fee. And then the Northern Kentucky Community Action, they're going to be the ones distributing it to all the residents and taking all the applications from the residents. And so their fee maybe like 3% of the grants. That wasn't finalized. Does anybody have any other questions?
No, so we received an email that the SD1 portion of that, and I'm just off the top of my head, it was like $25,000 or whatever, was just Fort Mitchell's portion of unpaid things. So we'll get for each utility, Amy, and then I guess we'll put this out on social media. It'll be also in different lines of communication that people, to let them know that they can apply for this. Is that?
Well, and Andrew and I were talking about that. I think the ad district is going to, get that out there. I don't know how they're thinking. I mean, they were talking maybe commercials. I know you had mentioned signs in certain areas, but Duke Energy and the SD1, they have, motivation to get that out. So in all likelihood, I bet you things will go out in their bills.
Yeah, they can specifically target the people who fit the grant as well. So I'm hopeful that all the utilities will really push out the message on this. I think that's probably the best way to get the information directly to the people who need it.
Right.
Good. All right. Any questions for that? That'll be at the next meeting. So the last thing under the mayor's report is to snow emergency or not to snow emergency. And, tonight is a great example. Last year, I don't think I called one snow emergency. And in years past, we called several, and, one case it didn't snow and everybody kind of jumped and said, why would you call a snow emergency? The bottom line is that when Public Works is out, and Ms. Berger, your street is a perfect example. I mean, they have to back down that street and try to pull out. It's a tight street with our trucks. And when these cars are parked on the street, it's just really time consuming, and such. So, I don't know. The Taylor Mill is already called. Villa Hills is already called. And some cities really believe in it, and others do not. It comes out to whether, you call a snow emergency, and then do you enforce, how do you enforce it? We hit in years past, we were knocking on doors, asking people to move their cars, and other times we ticketed people. So just kind of curious what everybody's take is on snow emergencies.
Well, we've always looked at snow emergencies in the past as a safety issue, like you said, for our Public Works driving the snow plows and the salt trucks. We need to do what's going to make their job the safest.
Mayor, I'd like to offer the suggestion, and Andrew as well. I think snow emergencies, more than anything, is more of an educational thing. I think a lot of people don't understand that they have to get their cars off the street when a snow emergency is declared. And so there needs to be something done. I don't have a problem with ticketing cars that don't, move, because again, it goes back to the safety of our drivers and quite frankly, the safety of the vehicles for the individuals. With that being said, maybe, the police can have some type of a flyer they can put on windshields of cars that don't move. So initially, hey, it's an educational opportunity.
Yeah, that is something we can work on. Something we could easily print out and put out there as a warning, maybe the first time. Or
Yeah, so this is a couple years ago when we had a bad snowfall, and at the time there was only 2 police officers in. One was on an accident on 75, and another one on a different call.
Yeah.
People are complaining that there's cars on their street. Well, we don't have anybody to ticket them.
Right.
And so that's where it's really tough.
No, and I totally agree. I totally agree, Mayor. And the flip side of that is, as you already mentioned, there were years during snow emergencies when the police were knocking on doors, and
Right.
which, I mean, people really appreciate that. And I know that goes a long way, but at the same time, that's very time consuming.
Right.
yeah, and I think honestly, one of the things that we could do on the police side is probably work a little bit with Public Works. It's, I think, Matt, what we have like 25 road miles, something like that in the city. Tonight's a good example. We'll have 2 police officers working. So, if it does come down to an enforcement side of things, what we probably need to do is focus our enforcement on the streets that are the most difficult for Public Works. It's unfortunate, and maybe it's a little bit unfair to the people on other streets, but there are just some streets that are going to be a lot more difficult, and where that snow emergency is all the more critical. I do think the other thing we've tried to do in the past is, knowing that we can't get to all of the streets, if there's multiple snow emergencies called, maybe this time, the first time we go into one neighborhood, and the next time we try to do the enforcement somewhere else, just so that the message gets out.
So I'm going to work with Matt and Andrew tonight. I'll probably call it sooner than later if I'm going to call it, because one of the things I learned from last time, you can't call it 11 o'clock at night and expect people to know they're supposed to move their car. So you kind of have to do it early enough, or you're just waiting. So the big part of this event is if the second part of the event with the ice and then another round of snow, that's why I want to really take care of this one. So
Right.
Anyway, I just wanted to pass that on of what I'm thinking and what we're trying to do, and hopefully we can get the word out.
Yeah. No, I appreciate it, Mayor, and I appreciate it, Andrew.
I appreciate it for the sake of my department. Thank you.
City administrators report. Andrew, do you have anything to?
The only thing that I wanted to say is thanks. I wanted to say thanks to the department heads for all of their help while I've been doing 2 roles. Edwin, you'll find out quick that they make it a lot easier to do this job, because we do have really a great team here who not only are they all experts in their own areas, but I really do think, and maybe I'm a little biased, but I really do think that we all work very well as a team, and that really just made things smooth over the last number of months. I want to thank Mayor and Council for your trust in me, and also patience with me as I learned lots of aspects of the city that maybe I didn't know going into this. I'll thank the officers, the police department, my team in the police department, for sharing me with the rest of the city, and maybe I was a little bit less responsive with them during that time than I was previously. So thank them. Thank Charmalee for her help in the transition, and then thank my family too. And that's all I got tonight.
I'd like to take a second too, Andrew. Thank you. Lord knows I can be a little bit of a needy council member. So, and you essentially, we're doing 2 jobs, 2 full-time jobs at once, and you didn't miss a beat. So I greatly appreciate your service to the city. Thank you.
Thanks, Greg.
Right. Let's move on then. Thank you. Comments from council? Might have anything? Wow, you're easy tonight. All right, let's move to the department head report. Matt, you want to start us off?
Sure, just a quick update on our 2 projects under design. Grace Avenue, I think we discussed the some at the last meeting, but the sidewalks, we're from your direction from a meeting a few months ago. We're looking at sidewalks with every roadway project where we're doing reconstruction. Grace Avenue doesn't have enough right-of-way to do sidewalk, and that right-of-way acquisition process is going to take a little while. So we're going to do the sidewalk at a, the separate project from the roadway. The part of the reason for that is the funding for the roadway and storm sewer project. It's really started as a storm sewer project with SD1, and that is time sensitive. So that's the not so quick update on Grace Avenue. Watch Hill Road, we talked about the sidewalk plan there. At this point in time, the design work is nearly complete. We should be ready to put that out to bid in the next, we can put that out to bid in the next month. And what things we need to work on is a communication plan with the residents there regarding our plans to, we have sidewalk in the plan, so we've got to decide what exactly, if we're, there is a part of the plans and the decision to whether or not to go forward with building that sidewalk. That's something we need clarity and communication with all the residents. Also an update on that with we've shared the plans with Duke. They've potholed the gas services and the gas main. Gas main is deep enough and out of the way, but they're going to be lowering all of the gas services on Watch Hill Road to get them out of the construction, so we don't have some of the delays we've had over the past couple of years. Also, I've had a chance to review the street evaluation that was done last year, and went over some of the intended projects for next fiscal year with the mayor. And we have a spate of resurfacing projects, some spot reconstruction on concrete streets, focusing first next year on Chelsea Square, which one of our, I think almost half of the concrete street in the city is that one street. And also the next fiscal year, we have to finish Watch Hill Road. That will be started this fiscal year. We only have part of that budgeted for this fiscal year. Other things we've discussed, back with the street evaluation, the following years, more resurfacing, and also the next project will be, next reconstruction projects are Breckport and Cornell Avenue are on the docket. So we need to start the planning process for those. Another thing we discussed was budgeting for Royal Drive, obviously, since that's our long been our worst condition, our street with the worst rating, and waiting on that for the whatever is happening with the drawbridge site. But for we discussed how to fund that, and that's something that we'll be bringing forward to council at some point in time. But just make sure you realize that is in our mind. And that is the as far as roads, that's what I have. And our crew, we replaced a few sections of sidewalk on Home Meadow and Sheffield, and we have a couple more that are marked and ready to go. Most of these sections of sidewalk, there was some utility work that had settled over the years, and it's just been a long, slow process of the sidewalk backing up and becoming a little bit of trip hazard here or there. But we've successfully replaced some sections of sidewalk and brought in quite a bit of topsoil to fill in where that sidewalk raised up and the area had settled. Also been busy with obviously snow removal, as our crew is ready to move tonight. And that's pothole season as well. So with the snow comes the potholes, but busy doing that. That's all I have for now.
Thanks, Matt. Any questions for Matt? Public Works. All right. Chief Fuller, we've heard from you a little bit already, all the things that you want. What else do we need to know?
You always know I have more. So thank everyone for the resolutions. We'll get those grant applications filed. So the council report is obviously in the packets. 119 incidents in the month of January compared to last year. We had 138 in the month of January last year. 63 incidents in Fort Mitchell. So on the existing SAFER grant we have for recruitment and retention, year one of that grant pays for 6, actually all years pay for 6 intern exchange for service students. We have the 6 students fully selected. We have completed part of their orientation. They will be going on shift probably next week with their assigned shifts. So those are filled. That makes 100% compliance with the grant for those 6 positions. Also in that grant were 5 new volunteer recruits. Recruitment coordinator Grunick has filled 3 of those 5 positions already, and we have 2 more applications in background. So we'll be bringing on some more volunteer personnel. We have 4 students currently enrolled in the State Fire Rescue Recruit class. That they will actually graduate that class as long as they successfully complete it with their 150-hour firefighter certification, and will then be ready to move right into in the summer, hopefully to EMT class. So that is falling in place nicely. The new ladder truck went in service last Monday, so hopefully everyone's seen it out and about. It has been on pretty much every street in the city. Its first run was to White House Drive in Crestview Hills, which is a street that we have to back the engine out of. They actually turned the ladder truck around on that street and drove it out forward, which is pretty impressive considering the size of that street. So that just goes to show that some good thought from that committee went into that truck and the maneuverability and the overall size of it. We are up for our lovely insurance service office review to determine our insurance rates. I know when I became chief, I said that was going to happen. ISO is that far behind. They are coming March the 11th. We're going to do it virtually because of COVID. So that's going to be an interesting process. That is usually a very in-depth paperwork process. So hopefully we can work on that rating. I think it at least stays where it's at, which is a 3. I think we can probably get pretty close to a 2 is my goal. The mayor's challenging it. I see right there, he's at the 2. So there are some things that we can work on. So they're being very open to the fact that COVID affected some of our numbers. So we are working that out with some negotiation with the insurance office. And then everyone saw, I think, the press release on the National Fire Protection Association's community risk assessment process. One of 250 departments in the country to be selected for that for a pilot program. So we're excited about that. It'll be interesting to see the data they provide and how we can utilize that to develop programs for the community and figure out some of our actual risk assessment. And that is actually ISO points for community risk reduction. And the new recruit class is 235 hours. ISO recognizes a 240-hour recruit class. So with internal stuff here that we're going to do with those individuals anyway, I think we can get some ISO points for that class we previously did not get. So I think everything's kind of hopefully falling in line with that. So those are the current things we have going on. I'd like to thank Andrew for his full support. He's been pretty easy to work with. So now the rest of my to-do list just gets passed on to Edwin. So we'll have that ready for his first day.
I bet you will. Any questions for Adam? Adam, you're also speccing a new life squad that'll be when we start doing our planning session. It'll be in the next fiscal year, correct, of a purchase?
It's actually in this year's budget for the capital. So it is spec, it is ordered. Tentative delivery right now is mid-June. So there's a good chance every time we get an update, it seems like it's pushed back a little bit. Started off as an April delivery, now it's a mid-June delivery. So there's a good chance that may need to carry over into next year's budget on the capital side. So we'll monitor that situation, but everything for that is ordered. It's ordered. The chassis is actually supposed to be delivered, I think, this week. Just production's behind, and then everything else with that, the cot, the power load system, everything is ordered and ready to go. It's just a matter of production schedule.
I don't know if you saw Fort Wright just purchased a used ambulance and different things, and this council and cities always helped out other cities. I'd like eventually to kind of get a report on the ambulance that's going away and what can be used. My fear is always that becomes a tool truck or something, because it's a life-saving apparatus that I'd like to make sure that it stays that way, even if we help out another community like we have in the past.
Yeah, definitely have some feelers out there. There's some interest in it from a couple of places. Traditionally, we've also looked at donating it to Kenton County to be a county spare. I'm not seeing a lot of interest right now on the county spare side of things. So definitely looking to see what's out there and who can utilize it.
Good. Thank you. Any questions for Adam? All right, Joe, you're kind of in the dark there, but what's going on with recreation and Facebook media? You're on mute.
How about now? All right, I have an update as far as we're going to hold a city snow tubing day at Perfect North Slopes. We're looking at Sunday, February 28th. The rest of the details will come this week. So look for that in the next couple of days. That'll be put out on our social media, as well as we'll send an email out, and it'll be on our website. And the only other thing I have is just to thank Andrew for the work that he's done, and to congratulate and welcome Edwin to the city of Fort Mitchell.
Great. Any questions? Joe, I noticed your post on Facebook, so you've done a good job recognizing all members of council. I think you have 2 members of council left, and I think Joe's just trying to come up with some creative ways to get people involved, and maybe we could do something nice with Edwin and introduce him to the city too.
Yeah, sounds like a great idea.
So, yeah, any questions and you'll keep us posted about the snow tubing event.
Yeah.
Okay.
Now, those details should come out in the next couple of days.
All right. Amy, do you have anything?
Just in your packet is for the entire year of 2020, all the payments made to different vendors. So just look at that. If you have any questions, let me know. And then I also did just an updated cash and investment statement. I know we had passed, I can't remember if it was a resolution, but to invest in the Kentucky League of Cities investment pool. So we'll be working on that in the next couple months and getting some money into that, because the interest rates have dropped a lot. So try to increase that back up again. And that's really all I've got. We're just working on insurance renewal right now.
Any questions for Amy? And the audit, as Mr. Dethridge said, it was great, and thanks for everything that you do. Really does show.
Thank you. And I do want to say thank you to Andrew. I mean, him working on getting a whole new phone system and a whole new IT system while taking on the city administrator role and the police chief. That was a lot, and just hats off to him for being so awesome to work with. And I just wanted to thank him. And welcome, Edwin.
Any questions for Amy? All right, Andrew, I'll let you wrap it up.
All right. So I'm going to put the city admin hat back on for just a second and cover a couple things that I inadvertently skipped over. And we just talked about this with the safety committee, but we, the mayor and I had a meeting probably about a month or 2 ago about Bromley Crescent Springs Road. And one of the things that we noticed that had been kind of overlooked in that project is that our residents on the Fort Mitchell side of Edenderry are lacking connection to the rest of the city in terms of walkability. And with what we've been talking about in these council meetings here recently, and safety committee's concerns of walkability, with Councilwoman Burns's initiative to try to get a sidewalk connecting Beechwood Road with Anderson, we realized there was nothing to connect Edenderry. The Bromley Crescent Springs Road project does have a multi-use path, but it's going down the opposite side of the road. So we really looked at 2 different options. One would be for us to put a sidewalk in on our side of Bromley Crescent Springs Road. We think that's going to be extremely cost prohibitive due to the grade, and also probably some right-of-way acquisition that would have to happen. So we have asked the Kentucky Transportation Cabinet, since it's a state project, to study the idea of a 4-way stop sign at Edenderry to basically provide a safe crossing point for our residents. There would still be more work to do. The sidewalk on Edenderry doesn't come all the way down the hill, so there'd be some things for us to do in the future. And there's no guarantee that the state will do this. I think they initially have some concerns with that stop sign being there and the grade of the road, but they are going to study it, which I think is a good first step. So we'll keep you updated on that. Did want to just briefly touch on the fact that the mayor and Kyle and I had a meeting today about the park. And just to let you know, that is moving forward still. I think everybody had some good suggestions on some tweaks, which I will take a risk and say some final tweaks to the plans. And so the park board, I believe the idea is the park board is going to try to have a special meeting next week to basically just go over those changes, make sure everybody's on board. And we're still really on schedule, hopefully then, to bid out the park in the beginning of next month. So progress, keeping my fingers crossed. But I think it's looking great. And I think everybody should be really proud of the work that the council has done and the park board has done this year to move this project forward and really get our residents the park that they've asked for. On the police side of things, and do you have any questions? Sorry. On the police side of things, we're kind of still in the same boat as the last meeting in terms of hiring. We have 2 offers out. One is a new hire. He did pass his physical fitness test today. That's required as one of the steps towards getting him signed up for the academy. But in reality, by the time we get the next steps done, I would not be surprised if the next available academy spot is not until September. So, we're plugging along. We do have an offer out to a retiree, and we're having some difficulty with the retirement board, but we're working through that right now. And then we have 3 or 4 other, I think, qualified lateral applicants for the remaining 2 openings in the police department at various stages of interview right now. So fingers crossed, next meeting I'll be coming to you saying that we've made some pretty big steps towards filling those vacancies, because I do think the staff's getting a little tired, and but it's hard to find qualified people right now. It really is. I'm sure you can imagine that it's so many factors from 2020 are just making it difficult to recruit good police officers. But I do think we've got a solid bunch to fill the spots that we have open. Most of our officers should be getting their second dose of vaccine today, tomorrow, and Wednesday. So that's a good thing. And then, just one note I always say, every once in a while when you see a lot of our cars parked in the back parking lot right now, it's mostly because we're short staffed. So we just have some extra cars right now. Those will be filled as soon as we fill those positions. I did just want to point out one of the ones that's been sitting back there is one of our Tahoes, and that particular Tahoe has had the brakes fail 7 times in the last year. So I'm working on trying to find the right person at GM to try to get the situation rectified. Thankfully, no one's been hurt. There's been no property damage. But if I don't have some luck in the next month, I may be coming back to you with a resolution or something to try to draw some attention to that, because it is something I want to get taken care of.
Good.
I got.
Any questions for Andrew? The end of our meeting. If no one else has anything, a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
I'll second.
Motion, Mr. Colgear, second, Ms. Berger, all in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. City's adjourned. Welcome aboard, Edwin, and thank you again, Andrew.
Thanks. Good seeing you guys.
Thank you.
All right. Take care. Great evening. Edwin, I'll be in touch. You all take care.